that will point out to the kind of challenges that the president is facing as he starts his tenure. That is, he has spoken about the country's public debt and the high cost of living, talked about lowering the cost of fertilizer to try and curb the skyrocketing cost of living. And that something that is right at in the middle of that, Ishmael, is the high cost of fuel. And yesterday, being the 14th day of the month, we did see a 20 shilling rise in the cost of 1 litre of super petrol. And the president did say that he will do away with the fuel subsidies because they are not sustainable, and he seems to have a plan. But this is just a crisis that has just hit him on day 2 of his presidency. What is your take on how he's dealing with it?
Well, the crisis is temporary, Ben, and I will not change my mind from what we said before during campaigns, that it's not so easy when you talk about a nation's economics and the prices and the cost of living. It is not a Nairobi, it's not a Kenyan problem, it is a global problem. Everybody from the first world countries in the West, in the Europe, in the Eastern Asias, they are all saying that living standards have so much increased, and yet the family income and the nation's per capita income is still, a big challenge. There is no money. You want to live a certain lifestyle, but you cannot afford it. So what Kenyans need to understand is when the government gave the subsidy, it means that the treasury was actually coughing money and giving to multinationals who are bringing oil in Kenya, the fuel. So Kenyans ordinarily would think that now again the price has gone up. So, and he promised that the price will be going down. This is a temporary teething problem, because what the president is saying is he will go around it and look for a way to ensure that at least there is production, in the country, there is better, agricultural output, so that fuel is not the only issue. Because once you touch fuel, it is true that every other sector is touched. But you cannot resolve it by taking money from the exchequer, from the treasury, and pumping it to foreign multinationals. That is not a solution to him. Right. So I think the State House must now unleash and send the way they did during the campaign. They are very good at messaging. They must take now people, they must send correct people and strategists and inform the country that this is a temporary issue. We will overcome it. People should not judge the president, oh, he said they won. If they do that, actually, then they will not be supporting the country. They will not be supporting the president to, implement his plans. Right. This is just a temporary issue, and it must be understood as a global problem, not a Kenyan problem.
To start with,
there's a plan?
Of course, William Ruto has told us that there is a plan. But going back to the issue of fuel, when I was looking at the numbers, I realized that it's more of an immoral kind of trade. Because you realize that the amount of money that is spent in terms of paying in terms of the subsidy, if you calculate in a whole year, it will come to close to 200 and something billion. Because in 4 months alone, I think we have incurred around 60 billion in terms of subsidies. And unfortunately, this money goes to very specific multinationals. It doesn't go to everybody, which means that only these multinationals can flourish at the expense of those small petrol stations which exist in our villages where our grandmothers go to get kerosene from. As my brother has alluded, is that we are already in a very bad hole as a country in terms of the issue of the fuel price. So hard decisions have to be made. The first question is, should we continue getting involved in these unsustainable subsidies, or should we just stop and endure a painful time which is short-lived? And I believe that William Ruto, the president, did make a decision that let us endure this problem for some time as we craft solutions which then can be able to apply to our case. Right. Because if you look at the way the fuel subsidy program works, is that we get money from the exchequer, we pay the multinationals to be able to dictate the market forces, to be able to dictate the cost of fuel. What then that happens is that at the end of the day, we do not allow the market forces to dictate the price. And then at the end of the day, we also get to push out those who do not get the subsidies. They're not able to continue being in market. And one thing you have to notice is the way when the fuel prices have changed to a higher, they change immediately. But then when they have changed to the lower, they'll tell you that the stock we are having is still an old stock. Right. And I was having that conversation with somebody last night, like, of course it has changed. I mean, it's just an hour past midnight. So how long did it take you guys to get the new stock? So there are those teething challenges. And at the end of the day, hard decisions have to be made. Right. And then the good thing is that once we endure this for a month or two, I know that the economic advisors of His Excellency, the President, are going to craft a solution which will apply to our local problem.
Okay. Yeah. Mark Bichachi, as we wind up, is the President dealing with this fuel issue in the best way possible?
I think it is very important to tell all Kenyans that the president is not the president of Ukraine, neither is he the president of Russia, and he cannot control the international dynamics as a singular president. When that reality is forecast, then we cannot talk about 2-3 months and then we will have solved the fuel crisis. No, 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 no. We are in a worldwide economic crunch. What we need to pray and hope and believe that the current government will do is create innovative ways to do the following. Number one, to increase our economy and to increase the opportunities for our people so that they can afford the increased price of these commodities. It is very unlikely that the prices of fuel will go back to the 100 shillings we were used to. What Kenya needs to figure out is how can she make more money, how can she grow her economy, how can she export more in a world where the inflation is running rampant? And I think one of the things that the president should do through his team is also communicate to Kenyans that we need to tighten our belts. The whole world is tightening its belts. Our coffers cannot afford the kind of subsidies that Germany gives. So the truth is that, yes, we all hope and we had wished that the price of unga, the price of fertilizer, the price of everything would have dropped on day one. But unfortunately, the war in Ukraine is still going on. It is not ending. The issues that were brought around the supply chain disruption, around COVID, still continue. So the truth is that Kenyans must understand Kenya is not an island in the community of nations. We are affected by international issues. And whether we had voted Azimio or whether we would have voted any other way, I think we would still be in this situation we are in concerning the fuel. So tightening our belts is what is needed.
All right, we have to wind up. Let me begin with you with your final thoughts, Mark Bichachi, as we look forward to, as we review the first 100 days of the Ruto administration and, of course, going forward. What are your final thoughts? What's your prediction?
Well, this is my final thought, that number one, I think William Ruto as president will continue to be a man of action. I think he's going to be hands-on. I think he's going to push his agenda as hard as he can. My prayer that equally he chooses a cabinet that is hands-on, that continues to choose to deliver to the people of Kenya. What is also going to be critical as he's hands-on, he must also remember to include the public, to include other people, and to move ahead with them so that it is not just delivery, it is delivery with people in mind.